Hello, Maverick traders, and welcome out to your weekly currency room. This is Sankit here, and I'll be flying solo today as Rob is away. So you're stuck with me. Anyways, let's get started. We'll be reviewing this week's price action, and most importantly, talking about what's going to happen next week as we get into an important week of lots of data. So let's get into it. In this class, again, we'll be breaking down what's happening in the broader markets, doing a currency analysis, taking a look at news of the week, and then breaking down into what the currency baskets are doing. And then, based on that, we'll be talking about possible setups ahead. Now, let's get into it.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional stock and option traders. Maverick Trading is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional trader for Maverick, click the Apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
So looking at the markets last week, this was a quiet week in a lot of currencies, but we are seeing the exact same thing. The equity markets remains bullish. The S&P, NASDAQ hitting all-time highs. So that continues to happen. But outside of that, I want you to focus on what's happening in the bond market and the US dollar. They both remain strong. Again, this is where we're seeing a shift, where the rising bond yields or staying strong hasn't really affected the equity markets yet. So they're kind of all doing its own thing. We also had Bank of Japan and ECB. Again, no changes for them. So we are in this little limbo here where nothing's really is happening. So all that focus now goes into next week when we get the FOMC on the docket here. So let's take a look at the schedule and see what happened all last week. So no changes from Bank of Japan. We had the Kiwi CPI came in line with expectation. Mixed numbers from the European PMIs. Bank of Canada again remained pat at the 5% rate. No changes for them. One of the highlights for this week was the U.S. economic data, which again remains strong. The manufacturing and the services PMI, they were both above 50. So that's again pointing to a strong dollar, or pointing out to this whole expectation for rate cuts that really puts a dampen on that. So we'll talk about where those expectations are. But outside of that, we had the ECB again, no changes. Look at the advanced GDP data out of the US, pretty strong at 3.3. So strong data out of the US. And even today, we had the PCE price index, which was in line with expectation, but the personal spending really increased. So again, all those things, kind of gives you a bit of a flashing inflationary signal. So that's really where the currencies and the bond yields are moving. So that's really what happened in the overall markets here as far as the news event goes. Let's talk about where we are with our performances, and taking a look at it. We had a nice day in the S&P, nice week in the S&P and the World Stock Index. Cryptos are down. Again, we talk about how cryptos are lagging after this whole Bitcoin ETF. The gold market was down. And look at that big jump in the US oil, 6.23%. So overall, it was quite a mixed week. It was a bit of a continuation from what we saw a week prior. So we are sitting at some pretty strong momentum right now in the equity markets. You can see how we got this high base. We're kind of breaking out. And we did have a couple of signs in between where it looks like it wanted to roll over, especially this day here. You can see that candle, it was a weak close. But after that, you can see we just drifted higher. So I'm not expecting any change until next week when we get here from FOMC. And the big focus for next week is going to be this whole Fed rate cut expectation. So I think that's going to drive the markets higher or lower, along with the bond yields and the US dollar. Now, outside of that, let's take a look at how did the currency basket did. As you can see, it was not a big week. The only outlier was the Swiss franc, which again was a bit of a tricky one because we went in last week with a weaker Swiss franc, and then here we are rebounding once again. So it's not really following any sort of relative, any sort of correlations there. It's kind of doing its own thing. But outside of that, you can see everything was in this narrow range. Remember, this is the environment that you want to avoid, where nothing is really developing, nothing is happening, and you end up really taking losses here and there, and they can really compound over time. So if you see sideways price action and you see a narrow range, those are the times you just want to stay away and focus on when those breakouts happen. Now, taking a look at the crypto markets, you can see mixed price action, Ethereum down, Litecoin down, but then we had the Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash up. At this point, I'm not really interested in the crypto markets. Now, let's take a look at market analysis and see where we are as far as the scoring goes. So as you can see that we are sitting at a +3. So equity markets, is anything changed? No. Did any reversal sign happens yet? No. So until we get to those signs that something changes, let's just continue with the narrative that market wants to go higher. But I want to highlight what's happening in the bond market. So this is again 10-year yields. You can see we had a rapid decline in November and December. And since then, we've kind of come up. As you can see right now, we slowly got above the 20 and the 50s. The question is that are we ready to launch higher? Well, the price action looks a lot better than it did back in December, late December, and a little bit early January. So I would say next week is going to be an important week for the bond yields. I would assume that the scaling back of those expectations from the Fed will actually drive the bond yields higher, a little bit of rebound there, and this should also help the dollar as well. Now, outside of that, let's take a look at the crypto market. You can see there's a reason why I don't like it. It's going sideways as a whole, not really doing much. There's periods where crypto does well, but I think at this point, I think the better opportunities you can find in other markets. Now, let's take a look at the schedule for next week. And this is where I want everyone to get excited. We have a lot more important data, and that's where you want to be active. We have the CPI numbers from the Australia. Again, that will be something we always pay attention to, all the CPI numbers. Again, on Tuesday morning, I think this one, the US JOLTS job opening, that's an important data. But really, if you want to stay on the sideline, I think Wednesday is the day. We get the FOMC rate statement, sitting at 5.5, not expecting any change. But remember, that's not the focus. The focus is on the statement and the press conference. When Jerome Powell speaks, that's going to drive the markets. And when we take a look at the interest rate expectation, that's why we need to have some sort of change. Because right now, markets expecting for rate cuts in March, which we'll take a look at the numbers where we are right now with this expectation. But if that really scales back because the economy is doing really well, economy numbers are strong, I think then we can see some repricing there. The Bank of England, again, not expecting any change. So here it is. And then on Friday, I think this is an important one to pay attention to, is the job market. The jobs report out of the U.S. after the FOMC, that will be the big one. So you can see there's a lot of the data on the docket, and that's really where you want to be active. So maybe after the CPI on a Tuesday, I would only focus on the FOMC on a Wednesday. Now, looking at this week outlook, I think all eyes are going to be FOMC. We know markets are bullish, everything is looking good. Where's the next catalyst? That's a big question. What's going to drive the markets higher or lower? And that's what it is. The Fed is going to drive the markets higher or lower. So that's really where you want to be active and making sure you're keeping the powder dry, meaning not making too many trades and just save everything for that event. Outside of the FOMC, I'm not really seeing a whole lot movement from any of the central banks. I think they're all staying the same course. So in that case, I'm not seeing any big potential for those. But FOMC, I think there's a lot more focus on that. And that's going to drive a lot of the other currencies higher and lower as well. And as far as the economic report goes, you can see there's a whole lot that you want to pay attention to. So let's just jump into and take a look at our currency analysis, take a look at what the crypto markets are doing, and take a look at what the currency markets are doing. Let's just start with the crypto here. And in the crypto markets, I'm going to quickly go through it because, again, nothing much has changed. You'll notice that we are right now sitting at a +2 and a -2, meaning that the trend score are -2, but the velocity is +2. So in the longer term, trends are moving lower, but the shorter term trends are moving higher. So this is, again, a bit of a mix, a bit of a sign to not be active here, where you're getting two mixed signals. Same thing with the Bitcoin Cash. Same thing goes with Litecoin, Ethereum. They're all in the same boat. So let's just put her to bed here and focus on some other things that are moving. Now let's take a look at the Forex market. Now in the Forex market, let's just start with the dollar. I want everyone to take a look at a common theme here. What's a common theme? All right, I got to make a correction here. This is supposed to be a green, so it's a +2 trend score. So what's the pattern here? We were pretty weak. November and December, so were the bond yields. And the bond yields started to reverse. But look at the pattern here. We got 3 days of bullishness with some consolidation. We got another 3 days of bullishness. Another period consolidation. You see the pattern there? It's, there's a run and there's a hold, and there's a run, there's a hold. So you want to be really part of these runs here. And I think whenever we get that breakout, maybe put some alerts above this area. We start to get that breakout. You want to buy that breakout because that's really where the big moves is happening. So at this point, sometimes we get this back and forth where we can make money both ways. But right now, as you can see, the dollar is not moving lower. It's either holding steady or it's moving higher. So I still like dollar to the long side. I know the trend score is a +2. So trade with the trend score. Your life would be so much easier when you're just trading with the trend versus trading against the trend. Now, the Japanese yen, totally different story. It's sitting at a -2. Again, Bank of Japan came and gone. There's no change. It's back to being bearish, -2 and a -2. So I really like the yen on the downside, but I like dollar on the upside. So we'll be taking a look at dollar yen later when we look at the charts. Now, let's take a look at the Swiss franc. Again, Swiss franc is going in the sideways range. Maybe when it breaks out. Again, this is a currency that is just hard to sort of make a call on because it does its own thing. So far, we were +2, then we went a little negative. Now we are back to +1. So no clue what's going to happen next week. But if you just look at the charts are going a little bit sideways. Now, the euro, kind of the same boat, but I think euro had looked better than the Swiss franc in the last couple of days or few days. But now that's kind of pulling back as well. So again, it's a +1 trend score. Just realize that, if the dollar is a +2, euro and the Swiss franc is a +1. So a little bit weaker score. Now, the pound, what is the pound doing? Consolidating. So notice that it's not just a dollar story, but a story across the board where we're getting a lot of these consolidation phases. So what you want to do in the consolidation phase? You want to stay pat. You want to just wait for that breakout when they happen, and that's really where the big moves will happen. Now, looking at the Canadian dollar. So one good thing to talk about Canadian dollar is that we were sideways for the most part. We haven't really been interested in the CAD. We had a breakout. It looked pretty strong, but then after the Bank of Canada statement, there's a big drop right there. But look at how quickly we recovered. Now that is a bullish sign. I think if the CAD can break out of this high here, I would want to be buying that move. So I like this one. Let's see where it goes. Overall, whenever I see something reversing their moves pretty quick, it's just telling you that the price action is more likely to go up than down. So CAD is now back at a +2 as well. Now, growth currencies like Aussie, well, guess what? They are weak. -2 trend score, velocity was at 0, but I would ever want to pay attention to the trend score. Trends is 0, so I only want to be playing on the short side, not to the upside. And even though if you see a rally for the upside, again, I think those are great opportunities to sell into. Same thing with the Aussie. So the Kiwi, you can see that Kiwi was a nice range here. It had a bit of a bear rally, but guess what? Now we are ready in this point where if it does break, we want to be short. So that is the pattern that I'll be looking at. So going into next week, if I need to short something, if I need to go long the dollar, I think the Aussie dollar or Kiwi dollar probably be my best pick. So that's pretty clear to me where we want to be long or short. So again, let's focus on trend score. Pound, dollar, CAD, +2. Let's not try to short them. Aussie, Kiwi, yes, and the yen, let's not try to buy them. And I think that's one of the problem that I see with a lot of traders that make is, they will go against those counter trend trades. When there's a lot of volatility in the markets, that's not a problem because you can still find some good trades. But right now, those retracements are not as big. There's more consolidation, continuation consolidation. So whenever you get that price action, just wait for the move to come into that overall trend. Swiss franc and euro is on the +1, but I want to be sticking with the +2 and a -2. That will be the focus. So let's just jump into possible trades ahead and take a look at some of the charts.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
So let's just start with the best and the worst one, dollar yen. You can see the dollar yen, what is it doing? Well, dollar yen was pretty weak. It came up, pullbacks, rally, basis. At this point, if you want to be going long the dollar yen, just draw the lines. And I think that when the volatility is low, this is where if you want to catch a bigger move, you want to be trading on a higher time frame because there's a lot of back and forth. You can see that we're going from 146.77 all the way up to 148. If you want to catch a big move, we want to see this break higher, which can easily take the dollar yen up to the 151 area. So we don't know when that's going to happen, maybe on Wednesday after the FOMC, but that's the level. Where do I want to get long? It's pretty clear, 148.80. It will be the breakout point. So that's the daily chart. I would like my setups to be on a 4-hour chart. And I've said that before, when volatility is low, I like to be on a higher time frame. But I don't want to be essentially trading on the daily. I can use the daily, but then find a middle ground. For me, the middle ground is between an hourly to 4-hour. At this point, I think 4-hour looks even better to me versus the hourly. So 4 hours telling me give me a big range. Buy stop order goes right above it. The only thing is that you don't want to just throw the buy stop order. You want to wait for the FOMC as well. But if it does get a breakout, that will be a beautiful one to catch. So I'm going to go through the dollar bullish scenario. So we got the dollar yen. And now we'll just take a look at the Aussie USD. And what are you seeing in the Aussie USD? Sideways price action. And this is why I want everyone to think about if you're struggling in current market conditions. This is the reason why. You're trading a consolidation that's not going anywhere. You want to be trading this. The December was a great month. We want to be trading that. But when you get the sideways move, you want to be patient. So I know it's an easy thing to say, but it's the hardest thing to do. Being disciplined, being patient, that's definitely the hardest thing to do in the markets. Now let's take a look at the Kiwi dollar. What is it doing? Going sideways as well. So again, draw some lines here. Let's put some buy stops and sell stops. If it breaks that level, that's really what we want to be getting in. So on 4-hour chart, I don't have a signal yet, but something I'll be paying attention to as we go into Wednesday. Now, I have other traders asking questions about euro dollar too, but take a look at this. It's going sideways. But remember, euro is still as a +1 trend score. So euro is not the weakest out there. The dollar CAD is, or dollar Swiss franc, it's just going sideways as well. So let's just focus on +2 and a -2. Now let's talk about another one. Now, what if, if the yen stays weak? I think if the yen is staying weak, then this is where outside of the dollar yen, what's performing better? The pound is performing better. Look at that, pound yen. What is this happening? It's in a beautiful consolidation pattern. So if this breaks above this previous resistance at 188.82, this has more reason or area to rally higher. You can see we're sitting up at a bit of all-time highs. Same thing goes, let's say Swiss franc yen. What is it doing? Wow, beautiful pattern right there. Swiss franc yen is hitting that resistance. So something, if you're looking for a breakout, something I'll be looking early next week. So nice little setup here. Now, lastly, euro yen. Remember, euro yen is not the strongest, but I'm assuming that the setup still looks fine. But again, I think the Swiss franc looks better. The pound yen looks better. I won't really go after the euro as much. So I'm pretty clear on what I would like you to trade. We don't want to trade the sideways stuff. And right now, that's really what you're going to get. A lot of the sideways stuff. In this little chart here on the Aussie Kiwi, looks like Aussie is strengthening as a Kiwi. So I really like the Kiwi short here. I know some traders caught a good move on pound Kiwi in the last couple of weeks. I think this is setting up again nicely. Had a big move, sideways range. I think this can go higher as well. Same thing. We can take a look at Kiwi against the Swiss franc. Look at that beautiful setup there on a daily chart. On a 4-hour chart, this is the area. I'm trying to make a new low here. So yeah, there's decent setups. You just have to be clear on your timeline and your holding period. Next week on a Tuesday, we have Aussie CPI, and after that, we're going to have a lot of data. So maybe to start with that. So as I've discussed earlier, looking to trade around the news events. That's really the big goal here. We want those quick moves, and that's really where they're going to come. And outside of that, keep the powder dry. Right now, we have a lot more strong currencies: CAD, dollar, euro, pound, Swiss franc. Weak currencies: Aussie, Kiwi, and yen. So just make sure you're following that. Make sure you're following relative trend of weakness and the velocity scores. That's really is going to be your best friend here. The goal is for you to be active when markets are active and be on the sideline when things are not active. Don't trade the sideways move. Trade the moves that are happening in a direction way. Thanks for joining. Have a great rest of the weekend ahead, and looking forward to trade next week. So get excited. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.